your synagogue, so how many members are?
This synagogue has 1,000 families, which equates to about 35 to 3,800 people.
When was it founded?
1948.
And what do you do here? Because I noticed at the front how it's also an educational center.
Yes, well, all synagogues are, for the most part. Synagogues are different from churches. Churches are primarily houses of worship, but the Hebrew term for a synagogue is a Beit Knesset, which means a gathering place. And one of the other words we use for a synagogue is a shul, which is an old German word for a school. So synagogues have a long tradition of being a place of many different activities, one of which being worship, but education and lots of community programming. We have an active school here. We do lots of adult education. We have an out-of-the-cold program in the winter, which is the largest in the city of Toronto. We also have a much-in-demand food bank as well.
How is Judaism different from other religions?
That's a good question. I think you have to separate what kind of religions we're talking about. So I think the religions that are not what we call Abrahamic or confessional faiths, those religions that don't look at the Bible as their Torah document, their core document, we have to set aside. So religions like Buddhism and Hinduism and things of that nature, already we know that they're dissimilar because they don't share or have a core document such as the Bible. So already we say they're incredibly different because we don't have this book. Now, amongst the Abrahamic faiths, so that would be Islam, Christianity, and then Judaism. How is Judaism different from those religions? Well, profoundly in many, many ways. First of all, Judaism is the most immediate recipient of the message of the 5 books of Moses. Both Islam and Christianity are derivatives of that. The other thing that marks Judaism so different from Christianity and from Islam is that Judaism is a religion highly evolved in the language of questions. The tradition in Judaism, and one of the core documents of Judaism apart from the Bible, is a 63-volume rabbinic text called the Talmud. And it's literally thousands upon thousands of pages of discussions dealing with a very wide range of circumstances of people's lives. And of course the question is, why would you need 63 volumes when you could probably do it in 5 books? And the answer is that the Talmud records all of the discussions, the arguments, and all the opinions that don't become the accepted law. And why is that the case? Because the questions and the discussion are at least as important as the answers. And I think that's one of the great contributions that Judaism has given to the world and defines Judaism so distinctly different that Judaism as a religion does not have an obsessive attentiveness to answers. We're a religion of questions.
And do you believe we need religion in the world?
I'm the wrong person to ask that question. I know the answer. The world we live in is a very broken world, and there's a sadness to it. We live in a world, and you, for the record, more than me, because I grew up I'm almost 50, and the world I grew up in was very different from the world that you live in. You live in a world, and I do, but you've been growing up in a world that's very commoditized. You've been told that if you buy certain things, that you'll be happy. The problem with the world without religion, I'm not preaching any kind of religion. And just for the record, you should appreciate the fact that I think from my perspective, there's a difference between religion and observance. Religion are feelings that we have that connect us to things above and around us and inside of us. Observances are those things that we do on a daily basis that reinforce that feeling. The problem is that if you live in a world where you believe that you can achieve what you want by gaining commodities, by buying the right kind of clothes, buying iPhones or Galaxies or whatever it is, driving the right cars, you know what I'm saying, that you'll be happy, but you know that you won't be. That consumption isn't the answer to life. And by saying that consumption is not the answer to life, what are we saying? That essentially the most fundamental character of life is not to be acquired by means of things that we can quantify. And if you can't achieve the fundamental reality and happiness of your life,
quantifiable things, this, that, or the other thing. And how do you? Religion, Judaism, I want to say Judaism because that's what I'm a spokesperson for. Judaism isn't concerned and doesn't try to answer how things work in the world. We don't have a problem with science. We don't have a problem with evolution. In fact, it's great. We love it. It's all good. Judaism doesn't try to address how. That's science's job. And engineering and all those other things. Judaism comes to explain why. Why you're here. How do you deal with the whys of life? Because ultimately, in the beautiful words of the great social psychologist and writer, Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl, who wrote a very important book, and if you haven't read it, you must. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. He wrote it 8 days after leaving Auschwitz, the concentration camp. And Frankl says, in the end of his book, he says, if you have a why, you can survive anyhow. And what does he mean by that? What he's saying is that as you go through life, and maybe you've experienced already, and if you haven't, you will in spades. Life will throw things your way that you would have never imagined, good and bad. And if you don't have a fundamental why, meaning an understanding as to why you're here and what you're supposed to do with your life and what's really meaningful, you won't be able to survive how things happen. And the message, of course, by somebody who survived the horror of a concentration camp, for him to be able to say that and to walk out of the camp and become a contributing, meaningful, engaged person in society is testament to the fact that he had the true why of his life. It's meaningful. And that's the importance of religion. And that's the reason why, despite all the cynicism that exists in the world, religion will not go away. Because fundamentally, if you have everything you want, at the end of the night, you realize there must be something more.
Do you have anything else to share with our classmates? Any messages?
I would say to them, don't be afraid to live life. And don't be afraid to enjoy the things that life has to offer. But at the same time, never believe that the things that you see with your eyes are the most important things in the world. It's the things that you feel with your heart.